2024 is almost over, and I think it's time I look back on the reviews I did this year. What are my best whiskies? What are the top 5 whiskies I reviewed this year? I'm Matt, I'm the whiskey nerd, and like I said, today I'm going to be talking about my choice for my top 5 whiskies that I reviewed this year. But before I get into the list, I think it's time I pour myself a little bit of whiskey, since I am, of course, the whiskey nerd. This is actually going to be my honourable mention whiskey for the year. This is the Bushmills 14-year-old that was finished in Malaga wine casks. They actually released it this year. Very, very nice whiskey. Is it my favourite whiskey of the year? No, but as you can see, it's definitely a whiskey I kept going back to. So I think it was fair to give it an honourable mention because it has this like really nice like Bushmills funk to it. It has this really nice kind of like the fruity, malty nature of the Bushmills that's been sweetened up with the Malaga casks, making it into a real crowd pleaser of a whiskey. It's maybe not my favourite whiskey of the year, but like it is really, really nice. If it was maybe up at like 46%, where it gave all those flavours, but a little bit more, it probably would have made it onto the list. I'm on record for saying that I wish Bushmills didn't just put out whiskey at 40%, that they put out whiskey at 46, at 50%, and give us those higher proofs, which give us that little bit of higher flavour. Because it's so easy to drink, but at 40%, it's very, very approachable. It's very, very easy going. It is definitely a crowd pleaser of a whiskey. It's definitely one I went back to a lot, but it's not the most complex. It doesn't maybe deserve a spot on the top 5 list, but it is something I really, really enjoy. In fact, on my top 3 cocktails of the year, if you want to see that video, I'll put a link up there. I'll put a link down below. For one of my choices for my top 3 cocktails I made this year was using this whiskey right here, because it has this really nice flavor that translates well into a cocktail. But like I said, it's time to go into the main list. These are all going to be whiskeys I reviewed this year. So that's the only kind of condition. It can't be a whiskey that I just tried a sample of and never tried again. It has to be something that I reviewed and I really enjoyed, and that's why it comes onto my top 5 list. And I'm going to start off with a Scotch whiskey. Now I know I'm well known for drinking Irish whiskey, for reviewing Irish whiskey, but this here, the Glenallachie 12-year-old, really did blow me away. It was, I think, the first time I had a Scotch whiskey that I really, really enjoyed, that I went into and I said, oh, let me try a bit of this. I tried a little sample of it, said I really, really liked that, went out, bought a full-size bottle of it, and then I saw other whiskies from Glenallachie on the shelf and I said, well, I'm going to buy those too, and I really enjoyed them. It has this really nice kind of malty character to it. It has this really nice richness, like there's the classic kind of Scotch malt without being smoky, without it being dominated by peat smoke. And that's one thing I think I really like, because I like that kind of malty character of some Scotch whiskies, especially from Glenallachie, but I wasn't always the biggest fan of peat. I like a little bit of peat, but I don't want it to be the only thing I can taste. So you get these nice sherry influence, you get a really nice rich flavour on it, and it really does come out, to me at least, to be a very, very tasty whiskey. So for me, absolutely fantastic little whiskey. Glad I tried it, wish I'd tried it sooner, but it's definitely encouraging me to try more of those Scottish whiskies that are not so just dominated by peat, that it shows me that there are some really nice, interesting flavours you can get out there. Because my next whiskey, my second choice, is going to be another whiskey from Glenallachie, their 10-year-old cask strength. This here, really nice. Again, it was like the same idea with the Glenallachie 12, where I got that whiskey, I got that vibe of it, and I was like, oh, here is a really nice full flavoured whiskey, but it's at cask strength. And I think I remember saying it was like an ideal kind of cask strength whiskey for me, because it's got a little bit of like red wine, it's got some sherry, it's got vanilla, and it's got that nice malty character, coming in at I think just over 58.1% alcohol by volume. So it has this really nice high strength, but it's not like, again, it's not overpowering. It's not the only thing you can taste is that ABV burn. It just delivers all those kind of good flavors, the base flavors I got here, lightened up with a little bit of like red wine influence at full strength, and it came out as really, really nice. For me, it was just a real like a game changer. So I mean, like, wow, Scotch whiskies at kind of normal 46% ABV, at higher proof almost to 60%, can deliver a lot of flavor. So these two absolutely lovely whiskies. Really, really glad I tried them. Definitely, if I know I got a lot of recommendations from people when I reviewed these two scotches earlier on this year of other scotches to try. If you have any ideas for more scotch whiskies for me to try, let me know down in the comments, because again, I really like these and I want to try more whiskies from either the same region or from different regions but are like that similar kind of vibe. Next up, we're going to go back to Ireland and we're going to look at this whiskey right here, the Two Stacks Pillars of Creation. This is the 2024 release. There's only been one release so far, so I'm guessing there'll be a 2025 release. If you're looking at this bottle, you'll notice it hasn't yet been opened, because when I bought this bottle, I also bought a few cans of the whiskey to go along. This is my last can of it. I bought 4 cans total. Opened one for the review, opened another one a few weeks later when we got a bit of good news, and opened up another can when a friend of mine came to visit. So only have 1 can left, because I'm planning on like collecting these a little bit, and then maybe when it's like in a couple of years time, when I've got like the 2024, 2025, 2026 vintage, I'll try them against each other. Really, really like this whiskey. It has this kind of like spiciness from like the single pot still in there. Sorry, because it's actually a blended whiskey, so it's a blend of whiskey from the Culloden distillery, from the Dingle distillery, and the Ecklandville distillery. Culloden have this kind of like youthful spryness to it, has this really nice kind of like bright young flavor, because Culloden's only been around for about 4 years, or maybe about 5 years now. It has this kind of rich flavor from Dingle, whereas it's a kind of biscuity, herbally kind of malt character, and the Ecklandville added this nice rich spicy flavor from their single pot still. So you get this almost like, it's quite creamy because they were all finished in a cream sherry cask, which is just a mix of sherry. So you get this nice hit of fruit, but there's also a lot of vanilla in there from all the bourbon casks that it was aged in. So it has a really nice flavor. Came through almost like a vanilla cheesecake, where you get this kind of biscuity base, you get this kind of spices, the baking spices, and then you get that rich, creamy character to it. Very, very nice. Came in at, I think it's cask strength of 56% ABV, but again, it's not something that you don't taste. You taste the full flavor, but it's really nice. There's whiskeys here that's almost 10 years old, down to whiskey that's 4 years old. So each of those whiskeys added something to it, like it added a nice component flavor into the whole profile without it being like distinct. Like they're all pulling in the same direction. Really, really shows good things, because I think Two Stacks have a good future in blending whiskies from different distilleries and making something better than the sum of its parts, and that's exactly what they've done right here with their Pillars of Creation. Next up, it's another blended whiskey, and this one is coming from the Blackwater distillery. This is called the Full Irish, and it's called the Full Irish because it uses every kind of grain they're allowed to use in Irish whiskey. So it has malted barley, unmalted barley, has oats, has wheat, has rye, has a bit of corn in it. So it has like single pot still whiskey, has a single malt whiskey, it has a single grain whiskey, and it was all finished in like a stout cask. So it has a lot of Irish influences to it. So it's the Full Irish. I tried this one at Whisky Live Dublin this year, and then when it was released full time, I bought myself a bottle immediately because it really is tasty. It's really, really unique. It has a lot of that grain character coming through, which came through with like almost like a little bit of like fizziness, almost a little bit like that. Like you'd take vanilla and you add a bit of fizziness, so you get this like cream soda flavor to it. And really nice character, really, really interesting, and like it came across as a really enjoyable whiskey. Like it comes in at 48.5%. So again, has a nice full flavor to it. And it's just a really, really unique little whiskey. Blackwater, I think they've got some good things in their future. I think next year they're releasing like a core whiskey, like a core lineup that's going to be 5 years old. Up to now, they've been releasing these kind of like, I guess, single cask special edition bottlings. Very, very nice. Shows they're going in a good direction. Like their motto is, it says it on the top of the bottle there, let the grain reign. And they, well, did it with this whiskey here because they let all those grain influences shine through. Like it has this really nice flavor to it. It has this really nice, like you can taste the grains rather than being like in some whiskeys where you can like, oh, there's a bit of cooked grain, you know, like biscuity flavor there. Here you can go, oh, I can taste the creaminess from the rye. I got the sweetness from the corn. I've got the biscuitiness from the barley. I've got the like the spiciness almost from like the unmalted barley. You've got all these different flavors coming through, and you can taste them in the whiskey. And so for me, as an experimental whiskey, I think it came out really, really well, and it's definitely one of my top picks for this year, just for how almost unique and special it was. And lastly, we're going to go in for another blended whiskey. This one is from Teeling. This is their sommelier selection, so it's kind of taking their kind of core blended whiskey, which is 3/4 grain whiskey and 1/4 malt whiskey, and then they finish it in different casks, in this case in different types of wine casks. This is their Douro Old Vines selection, which means it's aged in wine casks from the Douro region that were like the old vines, which is like the premium kind of selection of their wines. And I thought it was really, really nice. Came in at 46%, and when I was kind of deciding, like, you can see I've had this whiskey bottle this one for longer. I've gone back to this one a few times, quite enjoy it. If I was going between these two, this one comes in at 46%, and it has this, yeah, it has just more flavor. It has, like, this is a full single malt, this is only a grain. Oh, sorry, this has mostly grain and some single malt. But when it comes to it, that 6% I think makes a huge difference here, and it gives you, like, even just looking at the color of it, like, you can see that wine cask here on that had a huge influence. You get this really almost like ruby kind of amber color. You get this really nice rich color to it, and it has this rich flavor. It comes through really, really well. I think Teeling have done a lot with their core, with their base kind of, they've got like a standard blend, right? It's that 3/4 grain, 1/4 malt, aged in bourbon cask and finished in a different kind of cask. So their core small batch product is finished in rum. Then they got these sommelier selections, which are finished in, I think there was a Zinfandel, I think there was a, this one here, there was a, what's called the Douro Old Vines. I think there was a Riesling, and I think there was another one, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was a few of those. Then they also had different kinds of wood selections. Got the Amburana wood from Brazil. They've got a Mugi Shochu one from Japan, where it's like this cask that was used to age Mugi Shochu, which is a Japanese type of barley alcohol. So I think it's nice to see them experimenting. But this one here for me, really, really tasty, really, really enjoyable, really knocked it out of the park, and was one I went back to a lot. But that's just my thoughts for 2024 whiskey. If you have your own whiskey that you really, really enjoyed this year, let me know down in the comments below, because I'd love to hear from you. What were your picks? Did you agree with my choices? Or maybe do you think that of the whiskeys I reviewed this year, one was a little bit better? One deserved a spot on this table more so than the others? If you do, let me know down below, because I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I'm going to keep on enjoying this, because like I said, it might not be my top 5, but this is a very, very nice little whiskey. So I'm going to keep on enjoying it, and I'll see you next time, and I'll see you next year. Sláinte.